Hello, welcome to another What's the Word? I'm your host Kyle, and thanks for jumping on. What we're gonna do today is be looking at Fantastic Four First Steps. We're gonna look at Nerdrotic, somebody that I have respect for, although they're very, very critical. But I do have respect for their opinion, as well as somebody who's much more moderate, Jeremy Johns. They're really just going to look at it as a film and not really too much of the politics or the emotion that fans can sometimes bring. So why don't we take a look here, and we're just going to get started. First off, I really just want to make sure that the stream is working. So that is gonna be my first priority here, is just making sure that this is working. So give me just a sec here, guys. Let me go ahead and make sure this is working right. Just gonna get started. First off, awesome. So it looks like everything is working great. So why don't we just jump right into it and see what Nerdrotic has to say? What's the word on Fantastic Four?
The internet can't decide whether it wants you to be boyfriend, daddy, dad,
What the is this piece of shit?
But do you think it's safe to say that Reed is the first capital D daddy in the MCU?
No. I would say he's in a group of a capital D daddies.
I mean, it's your ass, not mine.
Listen, these are gorgeous. I think that's my favorite image so far.
Just our hands.
Yeah.
I did not come down here just to get jerked off.
I've got one big spoiler that I'll share.
Go on. What? Wait, what?
I have relationships with women and sex with men.
What movie you want to see? You want to see a Pedro Pascal movie? You want to see a Pedro Pascal movie? Or do you want to see a Pedro Pascal movie?
You're famously the daddy of the internet. Yeah. Oh, he's been known to get a little bit snippy.
That was painful to watch.
Yeah.
You've kind of become a social media icon for your force field snatched fierceness face.
Oh, God.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing. It's a
My
good thing.
face is good, babe. Face just
I can't really express how awkward that would make me feel in an interview. Like if I was sitting there and somebody was like, you just have this fierce face. It's got like this force field, and then started throwing the C word around. I'd be like, man, this is a very uncomfortable interview. And you know what? It looks like she feels uncomfortable. Pedro's leaning into it. That doesn't surprise me one bit. He was like, ooh, that's spicy. I'll lean into that. She's like,
This means fierce.
Does it mean like
fabulous, beautiful?
What's
your rising sign?
That's nice. It's I do think he's a little odd, but I do think that they have some chemistry. Clearly, these two have chemistry together because he started leaning into it, and that kind of informed her to be like, okay, I guess I'll try to lean into it too and not feel as awkward.
Is it really? Oh, I'm very judgmental.
Holy shit.
The press tour has just been wild.
This sucks.
I actually saw recently they were playing Marvel Rivals, and Joseph Quinn played Johnny because he's Johnny. He lasted like 5 seconds into the round. Like the point didn't even open to start being claimed yet before he died.
Greetings, friends. It's been a year since Kevin Feige announced the triumphant return of Robert Downey Jr. as Doctor Doom.
Is the door to Iron Man totally closed? Because I don't believe it is.
If I pick the jersey back up and put it on, wouldn't you feel a little bit like, oh,
No.
crap?
No. Here's what I think.
All right.
They go through a few semi-lackluster Avengers movies without you.
It's been a year since Marvel announced the return of the Russo brothers to direct Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars. It's also been a year since the massive success of Deadpool and Wolverine. Additionally, it's been a year since they introduced the cast of the Fantastic Four at San Diego Comic-Con. And despite Pedro Pascal's weirdness, there was still some cautious optimism. And it's been 1 year since it was reported that
Movie studio behind blockbuster smashes has purged woke staff to try and improve its movies, but rival behind iconic franchise has doubled down on woke, expert claims.
Marvel had purged all of their woke staff and the staff who wasn't really interested in comics to improve its movies. All of this news combined created a lot of conversations and had people wondering, had Marvel finally seen the error of their ways? Unfortunately, that excitement did not last long. Fast forward to 2025, where Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios still had some business to do, and so far they've gone 0 for 4. You know the drill, but let's go over it again. Captain America Brave New World flopped.
Crap.
Daredevil Born Again was a massive disappointment.
Crap.
Do not even get me started, okay? Like, Daredevil Born Again was such a difficult thing for me to watch. I wanted to like it so much because I loved at least the first like 2 seasons of the Deadpool show, Daredevil show. Honestly, even the 3rd season, but like, God, that first season alone is just incredible. And I just really wanted to like it, but man, that Daredevil show, it just, it's not the worst thing you can watch, but by the end of the series, you're gonna just realize that the only scenes that you liked are the scenes that have Kingpin and Daredevil in it. Because Vincent D'Onofrio and Charlie Cox are incredible actors, and they're really good in these roles. Other than that, can't say I really enjoyed anything else. I mean, there's one good scene with Punisher. But again, that's just really good actors carrying the scene.
Although some people liked it,
I did like Thunderbolts. I liked Thunderbolts. If you haven't seen it, give it a shot. I think you'll enjoy it. There are some problems, and maybe I should do a review one of these days. But like, there's some definite problems, but I like Thunderbolts.
Thunderbolts was a box office bomb.
Mega crap.
And Ironheart was a preventable yet inevitable disaster.
We'll give you $200 for all of them.
And this has led to Disney's comrades in the access media openly questioning Kevin Feige's decision-making. Now, they're the wrong questions because they're the access media, but they're not known for openly calling out studio heads outside of David Zaslav. And let's not forget Deadpool co-creator Rob Liefeld openly calling for Kevin Feige to be fired. Never mind the fact that he has an axe to grind due to not being invited to a party, but I'm here for it. So you can understand why the Marvel Studios boss is feeling the heat, and some may argue that he should have felt it a long time ago. And that's what probably led to Kevin Feige giving an enlightening yet ill-advised interview to select press of the access media ahead of Fantastic Four First Steps, where Kevin Feige addressed a lot of criticisms, including why it's taken 6 years to make a Blade movie, where he said, and I quote, "We didn't want to simply put a leather outfit on Marshall Ali and have him start killing vampires."
Sir, that's all I want.
Yeah,
Never mind the fact that...
No, like, literally, that's just what I wanted. I would also like to see him in a nightclub do some dancing. I know that that's a lot to ask, but, like, I like the nightclub music from the original Blade movie. Really fun. As well as... You know, I think the Zemo scene at Dancing in the Nightclub speaks for itself.
That's exactly what people wanted, but I'm guessing they just got hung up on how many diverse girl bosses they needed in the movie. He addressed the firing of Jonathan Majors, who he wouldn't mention by name. He was only referred to as the actor or the Kang actor, and Kevin was planning on kicking him to the curb before
He started even before what had happened to the actor happened. We had started to realize that Kang wasn't big enough, wasn't Thanos, and that there was only one character that could be that.
Commie Mania. Another criticism is not having a finished script, but Kevin claims that they've never started a movie without a finished script. They just completely rewrite them, but they don't call it rewriting. They call it plussing. And then there's this banger from The Wrap. Kevin Feige stands by Marvel's diversity. Marvel is the world outside your window. I said this before woke and DEI became a thing, and I'm still saying it after. Well, in truth, Kevin has turned Marvel, which was the world outside your window, into Disney Marvel, which is the world outside of Hollywood's window, which has led to a complete disconnect with the audience and the previously mentioned failures. And that's why the Fantastic Four First Steps is the most important movie to Disney Marvel since Endgame. That's why we shouldn't be surprised we're hearing this from select access media critics. Fantastic Four First Reaction praise immaculate VFX and pitch perfect script, one of the best things Marvel has ever made, including unique reactions like this. Hashtag Fantastic Four, quite possibly the best Marvel Studios film ever released. Hashtag The Fantastic Four First Steps is visually one of the best things Marvel has ever made. Parts feel like Interstellar. Marvel has finally delivered not only the best hashtag Fantastic Four movie, but one of the most spectacular, emotional, creative, bold, visually stunning Marvel films ever made. This one's a bit different. Hashtag Fantastic Four is the most visually stunning and tonally distinct MCU movie yet. And I think this is everyone's favorite review. Hashtag Fantastic Four is a masterpiece. The visual effects and the score are a huge standout. Galactus is huge in IMAX. It's emotional and gives you hope. It beats you off and doesn't stop. Stay until the end credits. Well played, sir. At this point, I can divulge that yours truly attended an early screening to the Fantastic Four First Steps, and hopefully not with this guy. And I can state without reservation, Fantastic Four First Steps is a triumph and immaculate with a pitch-perfect script. It's one of the best things Marvel has ever made.
If you don't know where to start in Top Heroes World, the Springland is a great place to start. There are low-level enemies and villages.
So I know who he went to the premiere with. That is Chris Gore. And he runs Film Threat, which we'll probably cover at some point on the channel. Film Threat's really great. If you've never checked him out, highly recommend. Very interesting, really good insight into Hollywood and how films actually get made. Makes you wonder, what's he reading?
Well, after a couple of weeks of the very cordial, nuanced, level-headed, and downright reasonable conversations going on with Superman, and I'm absolutely sure that's going to continue with the Fantastic Four First Steps, featuring the universally loved Pedro Pascal and the overwhelmingly popular casting choice of the female Silver Surfer. And because some people are trying to make hashtag superfantastic a thing, the debate will rage on. Which movie was better? Superman's James Gunn or Fantastic Four? Well, according to the box office, it's ScarJo versus the dinosaur with Down syndrome. But as far as these two superhero films going head-to-head, well, we'll get to that. But I can say the Fantastic Four First Steps is the best Disney Marvel movie of the year. Being an unapologetic comic book fan, this review will come from a comic book fan's perspective. The Fantastic Four is one of my favorites, and I believe it is the purest form of superhero storytelling. And that's what makes it the most difficult to adapt. The best version is obviously the 90s animated series. I love the novelty of the Tim Story movies, and I adore the schlocky Corman version, which as of right now still has the best on-screen representation of Doctor Doom, with all due respect to Julian McMahon, rest in peace. And coincidentally enough, Mr. Fantastic in the Corman version uses his powers just about as much as Pedro Pascal does in First Steps. But after Disney paid $72 billion to Fox to get the rights back to things like the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, and others, and hey, maybe in the next 150 years you might break even, they're finally taking a crack at Marvel's first family, and they're swinging for the fences by adapting one of the greatest comic book stories of all time, The Coming of Galactus. Admittedly, my expectations were pretty low considering the previously mentioned casting of Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards, one of the smartest men in the Marvel universe.
Now, I am also not a big fan of Pedro Pascal's casting. However, I don't hate it, and I also acknowledge that he's a very good actor. So if somebody's gonna be capable of pulling it off, I could see Pedro Pascal pulling it off. But he doesn't really look like Reed, and I'm not sure he really embodies the Reed the way that I would have liked. However, I'm still gonna be open-minded when I go see it this Saturday.
And the incredibly stupid decision of gender swapping the Silver Surfer, which is an absolute deal breaker for me. That's why I'm surprised I was with the Fantastic Four First Steps for a good portion of the movie. Unfortunately, while there was a concerted effort with this, Disney Marvel just can't get out of their own way. And despite the overpraise from the early reactors, I will agree that the retro futuristic look really works. It's pretty slick. Everything is analog. A lot of people will compare it to the Jetsons. Some may compare it to the Venture Brothers. I'll say it's the Fantastic Four. And dare I say there's even a style to the directing, something we haven't seen in the MCU in years. And while many will be comparing this to Superman, and we will do that later, I think it's more fair to compare it to other Marvel films. And the one distinct difference is the story. It's actually enclosed and it's earnest. I'd like to preface this statement by saying we need to replace the boy who cried wolf fable with the boys who cried that this is the best Marvel thing since the last Marvel thing. That being said, this is probably the most serious Marvel has taken itself, with a couple of very large exceptions since Endgame, and now I'm going to slap myself for saying that. Because the Fantastic Four First Steps, and I'm not going to say that stupid title anymore.
Say it! I don't wanna!
Is not without its problems, but let's start with the good. First of which is the story. It's simple and it's focused. The wildly popular Fantastic Four face their most daunting challenge yet as they defend the Earth from Galactus and the female Silver Surfer. As Disney Marvel faces their most daunting challenge yet, making a good movie. And just like with Superman, they are an established team of superheroes, in this case 4 years into their run. And through a montage where they clearly cut stuff out, including John Malkovich's Red Ghost, who I wish they would have left in, they show you that the public has reverence for them. And they show you acts of heroism without the Fantastic Four getting their asses kicked all the time. And the Fantastic Four isn't filled with a bunch of side characters. It is focused on the Fantastic Four, Galactus, and unfortunately the female Silver Surfer. And yes, it's about family.
Whoa. That looked
And yet,
epic.
Fantastic Four isn't filled with a bunch of side characters. It is focused on the Fantastic Four, Galactus, and unfortunately...
Oh shit, that looks epic! Oh, okay. Visually stunning indeed. My god, that looks awesome! Okay, Gary is very cynical when he covers these movies, and I have heard a lot of praise from a cynical man so far.
Only the female Silver Surfer. And yes,
Yeah,
it's about family.
Family, family, family.
You heard me right.
Bunch of Dominic Toretto's, just family, family. They all should have had a Corona in their hand. Okay, I'm really liking what I'm hearing halfway through this.
Disney, the company once known as a family brand that absolutely betrayed that by getting involved in some state politics, has suddenly rediscovered the nuclear family. As far as characters go, I'd have to say my favorite is Ebon Moss-Bachrach's Ben Grimm. This is the best the character...
Oh, that is so great. That is exactly what I want to hear because I've been so nervous of that. He has been one of the characters I've been most nervous about.
ever looked on film, and they finally added the eyebrow. It's very Kirby and John Byrne. He didn't have the gravelly voice, but it didn't bother me, and there wasn't a bad scene he was in. I just wish there was more. Because arguably, well, it's not arguable, the Thing is the most popular character in the Fantastic Four, and he's relegated to fourth in this. Another standout is Joseph Quinn, who was great as Eddie in Stranger Things Season 4, playing the Human Torch. You know, there was a narrative being pushed out there by the likes of Variety, who we'll get to, that we were going to get some form of modern, kinder, gentler, soy Johnny Storm. Well, I'm here to tell you he's a smartass, he's straight, and he likes the ladies. And along with Ben Grimm, they get the look right, the powers right. So far, so good. Now, you can't blame fans for those narratives that were being pushed, and you can't blame them for being surprised Johnny Storm isn't gay. Because Kevin Feige, Marvel Studios, Disney, Lucasfilm, and hell, Hollywood have earned their reputation and do not deserve the benefit of the doubt. So you also can't blame the fans for thinking that Sue Storm, the First Lady of Marvel, will just be portrayed as another insufferable Marvel girl boss. And you could completely understand why people would think that, considering her positioning on the poster, the promotional material, which, just like Superman, Marvel's shown too much, and if you've seen it all, that's a good portion of the movie. And I'm not going to say those moments aren't there because Disney Marvel just can't help themselves. But Vanessa Kirby is a good Sue Storm who actually loves her family and is a very protective mother, which makes it all the more frustrating with some of the decisions the writers made with her at the end of the movie, which we'll get to. And to round out the good, we are going to talk about something comic book fans have been waiting for a long time: a fully realized Big Purple Galactus, played to perfection by Ralph Ineson. He is ominous, he is dangerous, and something we rarely see in the MCU, an actual threat. And just like in the comics, not necessarily evil, but a force of nature. Aside from his questionable choices in employees, when the Fantastic Four go to negotiate with Galactus and you see him in all his glory in the Geiger-esque tattoo, it's brilliant. That's what makes it, again, frustrating that the writers chose to do him dirty in the end. This brings us to the it's just fine to tolerable, and yes, surprisingly enough, That's Pedro Pascal's Mr. Fantastic. I, along with many others, suffer from Pedro Pascal fatigue, and it's a tall order to ask people to get over it. To be fair, he does what he's asked to do in this movie, but that doesn't take away from the fact that he is completely miscast. John Hamm would have been a better choice, but considering Pedro Pascal wasn't Marvel's first, second, or third choice, maybe he was asked and turned down the role. He is unquestionably the leader of the Fantastic Four. He just looks miserable doing it and spends most of the movie looking like he's on the verge of tears. He is playing a desperate Reed Richards, but sometimes it just comes off as a sad sack Reed Richards, because you can still have those things with a commanding presence with the proper actor, which Pedro was not in this case. Surprisingly enough, he did have chemistry with Vanessa Kirby, maybe not as much as on the red carpet or the promotional tours, but it was there. And don't get me started on Marvel betting its future on Pedro Pascal as the leader of the Avengers, especially when they don't show him really using his powers. And if you think I was joking about the Corman Fantastic Four using Reed's powers just about as much as they do in First Steps, I wasn't. And according to some who work in or around Marvel, they didn't use his powers because it looked goofy. Never mind the fact that stretchy powers looked good in One Piece and brilliant in The Incredibles. Now, if you want to argue Pedro Pascal looks goofy, I'm with you. But as mediocre as he was, the thing that ultimately brings it down for me as a comic book fan, and I'm not going to apologize for it, is the female Silver Surfer. Got nothing against the actress Julia Garner, who had a very good response to the controversial casting, which was basically, I have a job to do and I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. Respect. No, I blame...
I heard she was a really, really great actress on Westworld. I'm sure she's totally fine for the role. I feel it's probably the same situation as Pedro Pascal, right? Where it's like, you as an actor are perfectly fine and you are bringing it to this role, but I'm concerned that, you know, are you actually the right person for the role? That's really where my question comes in.
The decision makers at Marvel, because I walked into the Fantastic Four thinking the female Silver Surfer's a dumb idea, and I walked out of the Fantastic Four thinking the female Silver Surfer's a dumb idea, while Kevin Feige is out there bloviating that fans were
Okay. I'm glad to hear you say that, Kevin Feige, but where is Moon Knight Season 2? Okay? I like Moon Knight. My friends like Moon Knight. My girlfriend liked Moon Knight when I showed it to her. Like, everybody likes Moon Knight. Where is Moon Knight Season 2? Like, I don't understand. We only got one of his two alternate personalities. We still haven't met Jake Lockley officially. Like, I mean, we have been introduced to him, but I haven't really gotten to know him. Not the way I got to know Steven. Give us Moon Knight Season 2.
demanding that people wanted to see characters like Miss Marvel, all while bringing us characters like America Chavez, female Thor, and Ironheart, when there was a character that fans were actually clamoring to see, along with a real Galactus, and that's Norrin Radd as the Silver Surfer. And after watching the film, I could...
that does disappoint me so much. Like, why? Why would you swap Norrin Radd for his girlfriend? Or wife? Like, I don't understand that. It's... just because it happened in, like, one comic panel, one time, like, 50 years ago, doesn't mean that that's, like, the canon. And no, it's not like it was popular or anything. I don't know.
Definitively say that she was completely pointless at best, and I wouldn't agree with this. You could say she was ancillary. But wait a minute, I was told that they actually justified this decision by having Johnny Storm hit on her. Well, thanks to too many promotional clips, you've already seen most of the scenes they had together, and that was essentially to set up her Rose Tico moment in the end. Again, we're gonna get to that. And those reshoots with Julia Garner to provide more context to the character actually make things worse. They spent millions of dollars on a flashback that lasts just a few seconds, showing Shalabal on Zenn-La as a single mother. That's right, no Norrin Radd or dad to...
No! Oh. I mean, like, here's the thing, right? I'm not a fan of the gender swap to begin with, but whatever. I can get over that. So you're gonna take Norrin Radd's story and you're gonna have her sacrifice herself to save the planet, not Norrin sacrifice himself to save the planet. Part of that is that Norrin is sacrificing himself to save Shala and their child. So I would expect to see Shala sacrifice herself to save her child and Norrin. You don't just completely get rid of him. Ugh.
Be found, and she's barely in the film. The Silver Surfer in 2007's Rise of the Silver Surfer was more developed, and ultimately it didn't add to the film. It took away from it because it wasn't a decision based on creativity, it was one based on identity. It's as bad as casting Black Snape, and it's a classic example of Disney Marvel snatching defeat out of the jaws of victory. But the female Silver Surfer was not the only dumb thing in Fantastic Four, because it's the kind of movie, and my good friend Mahler loves to hear this, that you need to turn your brain off to. Marvel's First Family is a science fiction superhero story, but this one didn't want to get bogged down in all that science. It's also incredibly important to have smart people write smart people. Matt Shakman, the director of Fantastic Four, also directed WandaVision, and there are similarities between the two, not just in style and tone. Both of them started out promising and then fell flat in their face in the end. We're hitting some spoilers. An exorbitant amount of time in this
everybody, anybody watching this video right now, spoilers ahead. If you don't want spoilers, spoilers ahead.
Movie is spent on Franklin Richards, preparing for the birth of Franklin Richards, the birth of Franklin Richards, and what kind of powers is Franklin Richards going to have. And he certainly presents a problem for Marvel Comics and this film because he's incredibly OP. I digress. In the clip that most of you already saw, after the female Silver Surfer chooses Earth as the next planet for Galactus to consume, the Fantastic Four, including a very pregnant Sue Richards, fly in their ship Excelsior to Galactus's Ta-2. Galactus offers to spare the Earth in exchange for their unborn child, who he says possesses the power cosmic. And that's because Galactus wants to quit being Galactus and have Franklin take over for him. So you introduce a Galactus who wants to quit. Now, in the comics anyway, Galactus has the power to create life, so I'm guessing he can probably induce labor since Sue is about to pop. Now, is there a power cosmic daycare on Ta-2? And maybe this justifies the gender swap of the female Silver Surfer because Franklin Richards will need a nanny. Who knows? Fantastic Four obviously don't accept those terms and escape. And then Sue gives birth in space while they flee Galactus and the female Silver Surfer. Admittedly, it's a cool scene until you think about things like, what the hell is she even doing there? These are supposed to be smart people. And yes, Franklin Richards is the MacGuffin of this film, and the whole point was to save him and Earth, but they didn't seem too concerned about their baby at this point. But this does set up an interesting problem. How does the Fantastic Four save their son and Earth, who will turn on them from Galactus? And that's indeed what happens. Earth starts turning on the Fantastic Four for not giving up their son, and they show the repercussions of this decision for about 10 minutes. And then it gets solved pretty easily with a speech by Sue Storm, and then the world unites to fight Galactus. And Pedro Pascal's Reed Richards' big plan is to teleport the Earth.
We should take Bikini Bottom and push it somewhere else!
And by gum, it almost works, but then it's thwarted by the female Silver Surfer. And this is where the whole Johnny Storm and female Silver Surfer romance becomes pointless. Because instead of using that connection to turn the Silver Surfer, Johnny Storm plays her the last messages of all the planets she helped destroy, and she has a nervous breakdown. To be fair, it's a pretty accurate depiction of a woman being held accountable.
Remember, they're just jokes. We're all gonna die soon, and there's no sequel.
So now the plan is to teleport Galactus instead of the planet Earth. Now, you would think the smartest man in the Marvel Cinematic Universe would have led with that. Now, they did have to use Franklin Richards as bait, so it was seen as a last resort. But considering a little bit earlier in the film, you were willing to risk his life and the life of his mother by taking him to Galactus, I don't see the problem here. And this is where they do Galactus, Sue Storm, and the rest of the Fantastic Four dirty. Because Sue Storm, by herself, holds off Galactus while reminding Reed Richards to save his own son. And just like with Superman, they're pushing a bad guy through a portal. What would have been better? The entire Fantastic Four holding him off instead of just Sue. Now, the other three guys did fight him, but it was inconsequential. So yes, it's Sue Storm and the other three guys. And this is obviously a depowered Galactus who needs one more push to get through that portal. And as the Human Torch gets ready for his hero moment, he gets Rose Tico'd by the female Silver Surfer. And the spoilers on Reddit told it true. Galactus is defeated by the women.
Girls get it done.
And I was asked by everyone's pal Alan Ing if I would have liked that scene more if it was the Norrin Radd Silver Surfer, and the answer is yes. Because you know where there's a better ending to this story? The comics. And it's not like you're adapting phone book fantasy. We're talking 3 comics from the 60s that are under 100 pages, including the ads. It would have been better with a male Silver Surfer. It would have been better with Alicia Masters, where you can spend a little less time on It's All About the Baby and a little more time on Ben Grimm's self-loathing. You could have introduced the Watcher, and yes, it would have been better with the Ultimate Nullifier, which leads to Galactus leaving the Earth alone. Now, Sue Storm sacrifices her life, defeating Galactus with the help of the female Silver Surfer, but she's immediately resurrected by Franklin Richards.
Barely an inconvenience.
Who presents the same problem in the MCU as he presents in the comic books. Now you have somebody who can just resurrect somebody whenever they want. Now, the infant god is a concept that works as long as you keep them young. But going back to the sad Galactus who wants to quit getting defeated pretty easily, it echoes back to Echo with Kingpin. You've diminished one of your biggest bads, and if he comes back, you could just call the MCU's Captain Marvel and Gaia, and they would make easy work of him, which is preposterous. And as far as anybody getting their hopes up for the real Silver Surfer turning up at some point, no. The female Silver Surfer went through the portal with Galactus, and if he's coming back, she's coming back. So, considering hashtag super fantastic, what is a better movie? Superman or Fantastic Four? As far as character-driven storytelling and earnestness is concerned, I would have to give the nod to at least the first 2/3 of Fantastic Four, but Superman has a much better cast. Superman definitely has more action, and the Fantastic Four is a bit slow, but at least occasionally it was engaging, but I think that will affect its rewatchability. Both films really embrace the Silver and Bronze Age comics of it all, which I love. That's why I'm very surprised to say, with one big female Silver Surfer exception, that the Fantastic Four took the assignment more seriously. Unfortunately, both films were brought down by some pretty dumb decisions, the frequently aforementioned gender swap and evil Jor-El. Superman has a lead actor in David Corenswet who's really...
I don't even want to remember. I don't even want to remember evil... They were scientists! James Gunn, Jor-El, and Laura L. were scientists! They were the only ones that knew Krypton was gonna blow! Nobody else would believe them! Makes me so mad. Why did you do that? It was so unnecessary.
Good, but doesn't get enough respect within his film, and Fantastic Four has a lead actor in Pedro Pascal who no one outside of Hollywood respects. James Gunn's Superman isn't woke, and while it's dialed down to Disney Marvel standards, there is modernity in Fantastic Four with a heavy dose of girl power at the end. But I will give Disney Marvel credit, at least through the first 2/3 of the film, they made the Fantastic Four egalitarian. And yes, I realized I just gave a compliment for doing the bare minimum. That's how far the bar has been lowered, so if I am forced to choose between watching Superman or the Fantastic Four, I'll watch F1.
Imagine being able to build anything just by thinking about it.
I love superheroes.
Meet Base 44, a complete AI.
But I love
Seriously,
superheroes.
And I can't believe I'm saying this, and it's not by much, but FF is slightly better. And The Incredibles is still the best Fantastic Four movie. Ultimately, just like with Superman, I walked out of the theater feeling whelmed. And I would have given the Fantastic Four a much higher grade if you had properly cast Reed and a male Silver Surfer with some obvious tweaks to the script. To use what some may consider as an outdated saying, but in truth it's not, and if my aunt had nuts, she'd be my uncle. But I'm not overlooking the positive here. Outside of nostalgia bait and Spider-Man, Disney Marvel made a new movie that's mid, with parts I really enjoyed, and that's a win. You know what we like to say around here, progress, not perfection. The Fantastic Four First Steps is indeed the best Disney Marvel film of the year. I guess the one good thing to come out of Superman and the Fantastic Four is the general public is becoming more aware of something we've known for a long time. Variety and their ilk in the access media, the legacy media with all of their constant gaslighting, is and always has been the enemy of the people. And they have done as much, if not more, damage to fandom than corporate Hollywood, because no, it wasn't you. And as far as the superhero film is concerned, it's been said that its fate will be decided in July of 2025, and the verdict is, its future lies in mediocrity.
Dirterotic.com.
All right, guys. All right. So why don't we take a look at a Guardian article? Our boy Peter Bradshaw, the man that despises superhero films in superhero content. What does the guy who hates superhero stuff have to say? The Fantastic Four First Steps review. Marvel regains buoyancy with wacky superhero family sitcom. Okay. In a retro-futuristic version of early 1960s New York, Mr. Fantastic and Sue Storm are living together as a dysfunctional family with the Human Torch and the Thing with a new baby on the way. Baby steps, okay. Discovering the lighthearted dimension of superheroes. Feels Guardians of the Galaxy-esque. People are loving the 1960s retro feel. No. See, this is why we gotta read this guy, because this guy just does not know superheroes at all. He's not named Mr. Fantastic because he can stretch. He is Mr. Fantastic because he is the smartest man in the universe. But that probably did not come across in this film. Okay. So I think it's important to take a look at, how do people feel about this that don't like superhero movies, right? And let's see, what's his final paragraph? There is much incidental fun to be had in luxuriating in the film's hallucinatory 60s production design, down to the imaginary movies being shown in cinemas in Times Square, The Emperor's Twin from Disney, and an Alistair MacLean type adventure called Sub-Zero Intel. Then when the baby is born, Ben Grimm earnestly brandishes his copy of Dr. Benjamin Spock's Baby in Childcare, a permissive book with which conservatives were later to blame for raising a generation of undisciplined slackers. Certainly Kirby's Sue Storm looks very good for a sleep-deprived new mother with no child care staff, other than one small Google-eyed robot. As for patter familias, Reed, he always wears his tie, though sometimes tucks it into his shirt. Overall, very silly movie, though it's keeping the superhero genre afloat. So, he thought it was mid. Thought it was a little above mid. That's probably what a lot of people that don't like superheroes are going to think. That tells me superhero fans, probably a 4 stars out of 5. It's probably going to be right there with Superman, is kind of what I'm getting the vibe of. It's probably going to be right there with Superman. So let's just see what Jeremy thinks. It's only a 10-minute review. He's going to give it to us straight, and we'll call it there. So far, we're seeing some positive things. Kind of making me excited. That shot of Galactus, and if they're actually going to do Galactus' spaceship, I cannot wait to see what that looks like.
But to be honest with you, I've been looking forward to Fantastic Four First Steps. Then early access media saw it, started glazing it on social media, talking about how amazing it was. That's when I was like, oh man, you mean this movie might actually suck?
What do you think, Jeremy?
So Fantastic Four First Steps is the new Fantastic Four movie. They've tried this before. Some movies become memes, and some memes just don't die. Others die because we collectively wish it to be so. Such was the case with Fan4Stick. But now we have a new Fantastic Four movie by director Matt Shakman, who was the series director of WandaVision. This takes place in another universe. Reed Richards, Sue Storm, Johnny Storm, and Ben Grimm. They've already been the Fantastic Four for 4 years now. Now Galactus is coming for Earth. They gotta figure a way out of this mess. save the Earth, save their family. Out the gate, I gotta say, this movie does do...
Can I just say, this guy looks more like Reed Richards than Pedro Pascal. I don't know. Anybody else? Is that just me?
Good job at these heroes have been heroes for a little while thing, but does do a sizzle reel via a talk show to catch the audience up on them. Also, the visual aesthetic of the world. I mean, I'm not saying anything I didn't say from my trailer video I did when the trailer dropped, but that mid-century futuristic aesthetic, I just find it appealing. It's like some alternate art if someone drew what will the world look like in 2025 back in the 50s or 60s, it's this, which works in the superhero world where you just feel like you've seen it all before. There's no technology, it's really gonna blow your hair back, but as a coat of paint, it felt fresh, new, exciting, it was cool, it worked. Also, the cast I thought was great. Pedro Pascal's fame will be studied one day. He is his own subgenre, complete with fatigue. Pedro Pascal fatigue, they call it. Superhero movie fatigue has that. Pedro has that. He's one guy. It's kind of funny, we're in this age of an actor's brand is able to keep on screen whether or not it looks like the character. Pedro Pascal's mustache is kind of his brand. Would he look more like Reed Richards if he shaved his mustache? Yes. Would he look more like Joel from The Last of Us if he could grow a beard? Yes. Was he a solid Reed Richards in this movie? Yes. The guy can act his ass off and he brings it. I don't know if he's a one-trick pony and it just works. Kind of like my wardrobe. A smart guy with the weight of the world on his shoulders where he feels like it's his responsibility to solve this problem because he's the only one who can. He sells it and you buy it. Also, his chemistry with Vanessa Kirby, I thought they were great as a couple. They worked well as a team, as a husband and wife duo, trying to figure a way out of this mess that is Galactus's demands. It was kind of funny in the sizzle reel catching you up to speed. Reed Richards was like, well, I went to space with the most brilliant minds on the planet, which happened to be my wife, my brother-in-law, and my best friend. Hollywood thrives on nepotism. I suppose Marvel's first family should too. I liked how Ben Grimm wasn't here. Like Ben and Johnny, I'll get to Johnny a little later. He's gonna kind of segue into a bit of a tangent. But Ben Grimm was great as the big rock monster with the heart of gold. I do feel the mid-2000s Fantastic Four did more with him. This movie's like, who cares about the problems of man? The difference between man and rock man is rocks. Granted, he has been the Thing for 4 years, so there's that. Though he has a couple of cool moments where he's showing off for the kids in the neighborhood and whatnot. He's being that kind of cool guy, but that's just kind of who he is. He's that guy and then he smashes buildings, but I wanted to see more of what's in here. But granted, that is a byproduct, a downside of coming into these superhero stories, skipping past the origin part and having it all already established. Visual effects, I thought the visual effects in the movie were much better than what we saw in the trailers. One sequence in particular, I was like, this is actually pretty extraordinary. Might have been the IMAX. I don't want to be that guy who's like, be sure to watch it on IMAX. I don't give a shit how you watch it, if you watch it at all. How you spend the money is your choice. That's your money. To be fair, it did look really impressive on IMAX. That might be the thing that puts it over the edge. The reason I was like, wow, this looks pretty spectacular. So there's that. But even the Silver Surfer in the trailer, I saw the memes where people were like, how do we go backwards with CGI? I feel like the other Silver Surfer looked better than the new Silver Surfer, just in terms of silver. And there was an argument to be made, but seeing it on screen, I was like, this does look really good. Better than the trailer though. CGI has been tweaked because in the trailer, you know, when Johnny Storm is carrying Ben Grimm and he's like, what time is it, Ben? He's actually all in flames in the movie, whereas the trailer, he's not. Galactus is actually pretty frightening. Galactus is difficult to do. Even in the trailer, man, you commenters, comment sections crack me up. Yeah, Superman included, but you know, I'm just saying, people talking about Galactus jaywalking in New York, I don't know, man. It was funny to me. But I was like, how are they gonna do this guy? Time was, in comic book movies, some of these cosmic beings, they didn't know how to do. So they were like, we'll just make them all clouds, I guess. But we're at this comic book movie age now where it's like, we've seen some shit. You could do Galactus and it won't even be that weird. But I didn't expect Galactus to be this scary. That first time you see Galactus.
See, that's the thing though. That's the thing about these cosmic characters. If Green Lantern does actually do Parallax, if we actually do Galactus and Fantastic Four, it is gonna look terrifying. It's insane how cool. Thanos was the big step. Like, pulling off Thanos changes everything. pulling off Thanos makes me feel like we can pull off Darkseid someday. Makes me feel like Galactus is possible. Everything I am hearing about this movie, it's like the things I thought were going to be great are great. The things I thought were going to be bad are bad. It seems very much like if what your impression of the trailer was is what the movie's going to be like.
His eyes are glowing.
Maybe a little bit better.
One looking down on them. You have the voice. You got that Ralph Ineson voice. Pronunciation check on his name. Ralph Ineson, as far as I can tell, is how you pronounce this. It should be pronounced correctly because he's so amazing as Galactus. I mean, if you had an actor who didn't sell Galactus, this ridiculous force of nature that gobbles planets, it wouldn't work. With him, you're like, yep, that's who he is. That's what he's here for. That's why we gotta stop him. And much to my shock, the Shia LaBeouf Silver Surfer actually worked in the movie. Not just worked, there is this legit emotional moment. I wish they would have gone deeper into it. Can't talk about it too much right here. If I do a spoiler video, I'll unpack it there. I'll try not to make that one as nitpicky as the last one. I mean, to be fair, if you had Norrin Rad, you could still have the same emotional beats there. So there's that. Swapping to Shia LaBeouf Silver Surfer, though, I know she was in a comic book for that long. We gotta be honest, though, it is still a studio's way of being like, good call, this will track well on social media among people who will never actually pay to watch the movie anyway. I do wish the movie was a little longer because it looks, it's like unpacking a thing and then you're like, I'm kind of done with this. Oh, okay, I guess we're done with that. Just feels kind of half unpacked. But all in all, I really do feel this movie is the MCU movie the MCU needs. And that's an MCU movie that stands on its own, truly stands on its own. I've heard these MCU movies out there that stand on their own, but they don't really, not fully. They might stand 90%, but if you had someone who had never seen an MCU movie watch the movie and another one who's all down with the MCU movies and shows, that person who's never seen any MCU movies or shows will be a little more lost than the other person. Whereas this movie, you can have both those people watch this movie and they will get the same amount out of it. It truly is a movie that stands on its own, exists in a bubble. I think the MCU needs that because, let's face it, watching some of these recent MCU movies and shows, it's become a chore. It's become homework. No one wants to do it. I would make a killing if I made videos on all the MCU stuff out there. But I don't. Why? Because it'd be a drag. I'd rather enjoy myself. I would rather just enjoy life. It's all about the little things, really. Like enjoying life, enjoying your free time. And I really like Johnny Storm, too. Johnny Storm felt more like Johnny Storm than you've been told he's supposed to, which I find weird. It was a family movie with heart in which the family were superheroes who were aiming to misbehave and defy a galactic harbinger of planetary death. And for me, this one's key. The moments of heart and emotion were allowed to sit in that heart and emotion and not be compromised by jokes and comedy. But all in all, I really enjoyed Fantastic Four First Steps. Worth watching and worth buying on Blu-ray. All right, so the weirdest thing about this whole Fantastic Four thing is the conversation leading up to the release. The conversation about the characters. I get it, directors, writers, producers, studios, actors, whoever. Their job is to get people talking about the movie, but I've noticed more and more, definitely seen with this new Fantastic Four First Steps movie, the subtext is by any means necessary. Case in point, yeah, Joseph Quinn was talking about Johnny Storm, and he was talking about, oh, before he was this womanizing guy, but is that sex anymore? I don't think so. But he is in the movie still. They address it. And it comes across like that's one of the main reasons they made Silver Surfer Shia LaBeouf. So Johnny Storm would be like, oh, hey, silver frosting on that cake. Awesome, flame on. Not the only motivation, but it's in there. So why say he's not like that when he actually is? He just doesn't have the opportunity to be. He's just not in the position to actually be like that because he's dealing with bigger things with his family. Dealing with this Galactus thing. Also saw that Sue Storm's gonna be the leader of the Fantastic Four in this movie. No, she's not. It's Reed Richards. He's the one doing the press conferences. He's the one on the chalkboard writing the equations, trying to figure a way out of this problem. Sue Storm is very passionate. She's invested. She's involved, and it completely makes sense as to why. My point is, I've come to loathe when writers, directors, actors, producers try to fill in the context for the audience rather than just let the audience watch the movie and see what they see. And the rest of this
Completely agree.
dishonest shit just feels like rage bait. Stop trying to rage bait YouTubers. And YouTubers, stop taking the bait. Anyhow, that's my tangent. Moving on. Movie was good though. Not gonna say fantastic. I'm not above a dad joke or a pun. It's gonna be in a lot of YouTube videos though. I can't do it. And there are 2 post-credit scenes. I did stay for both of them because I figured I probably should. The second one, the end credit scene, it's whatever. It's fun. It's funny. The first one though, the mid-credit scene, yeah, you should stay for that one. All right, so Fantastic Four First Steps. Have you seen it? What did you think about it? Or what's a great Fantastic Four comic book? Like if you had to pitch, hey.
All right, guys. Well, that was us taking a look at Fantastic Four First Steps. What's the word? Overall, it really seems like everybody kind of liked it. It seems like people are really enjoying it. Even the people that don't really like comic book superhero movies are having something to like about it. So, honestly, seems like a movie that's worth giving a watch to. So, what's the word on Fantastic Four First Steps? Seems like it's probably good. Seems like it's worth a viewing. So, I'm excited to see it on Saturday. I will be doing a spoiler review and kind of put down all of my thoughts on the movie. But thank you to anybody who tuned in. Please like and subscribe.